The warning alarm screamed through every corridor of the USS Defiance as the massive battleship twisted through the fabric of space itself. Commander Jake Morrison held onto his command chair with both hands, while the entire bridge shook violently around him. Red emergency lights flashed across every surface, and the main view screen showed nothing but distorted colors that hurt to look at. This was supposed to be a simple test of the new jump drive technology, but something had gone terribly wrong. Lieutenant Amy Rhodes sat at the navigation station with her fingers flying across the controls. She was trying to stabilize their trajectory, but the numbers on her screen made no sense. They were moving through space in ways that should not be possible. The experimental jump drive was tearing holes in reality and pulling the ship through them at speeds that defied every law of physics humanity had discovered. The ship gave one final, violent shake, and then suddenly everything went still. The alarm stopped. The shaking stopped. The distorted colors on the view screen faded away to reveal normal space again. But Jake knew immediately that something was very wrong. The stars outside were not the stars they had left behind. The constellations were different. Everything was different. Amy looked at her navigation display and her face went pale. She checked the readings 3 times before she trusted herself to speak. "Commander Morrison, we are not anywhere near our intended coordinates. According to the stellar positioning data, we are approximately 47 light-years from Earth. That should be impossible, but the data does not lie." Jake felt his stomach drop. 47 light-years meant they were farther from home than any human ship had ever traveled. The jump drive was supposed to move them a few light-years at most during this test. Something had amplified its power far beyond what the engineers had predicted. He looked around his bridge at the crew who were all staring at him, waiting for orders. Ensign Carl Davis was at the tactical station, and he was frowning at his sensor displays. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange on the long-range sensors. There are energy signatures out there. A lot of them. Big ones." Jake turned his attention to the main view screen. "Show me what you have got, Carl." The tactical officer worked his controls, and the view screen changed to display the sensor data. What Jake saw made his blood run cold. There were dozens of energy signatures scattered across the space around them. Each one was massive. Each one was moving, and many of them were firing weapons at each other. "Magnify that region," Amy ordered Jake, pointing at a cluster of signatures. The view screen zoomed in and showed them something that no human eyes had ever seen before. Alien starships, huge vessels that dwarfed even the Defiance, were engaged in combat. Bright lances of energy streaked between the ships. Explosions bloomed in the void of space like flowers made of fire. Some ships were easily 3 times the size of the largest human vessel ever built. Communications Officer Peter Blake was suddenly very busy at his station. "Sir, I am receiving multiple signals on dozens of different frequencies. The computer is trying to analyze them, but they do not match any known human language or communication protocol." Jake stood up from his command chair and walked closer to the view screen. He could see at least 6 different types of alien vessels out there. Some were long and sleek like needles. Others were bulky and covered in what looked like armor plating. A few had designs that seemed to make no sense at all, with pieces that floated separately but moved in formation. "How many ships are out there?" Carl asked Jake without taking his eyes off the screen. Carl worked his console quickly. "I count 43 distinct contacts, Commander. They appear to be divided into 2 main groups. One group has 21 ships and the other has 22. They are positioned on opposite sides of this region, and they are actively exchanging weapons fire." "We jumped right into the middle of a war," said Amy quietly. The words hung in the air for a moment while everyone on the bridge absorbed what that meant. They were alone in unknown space, surrounded by alien civilizations that were currently trying to destroy each other. The Defiance was the only human ship within 47 light-years. There was no backup, no reinforcements. No one even knew where they were. Chief Engineer Lisa Grant's voice came over the intercom from engineering. "Commander Morrison, we have a serious problem down here. The jump drive is completely burned out. I mean completely. Half the power relays are melted and the main control matrix is slag. It will take days to repair. Maybe weeks." Jake closed his eyes for just a moment. They could not jump away. They could not run. They were stuck here in the middle of an alien battlefield with no way home and no way to call for help. "Commander, one of the alien ships is changing course," said Carl with tension in his voice. "They are moving toward us." On the view screen, one of the larger alien vessels broke away from its formation and began accelerating in their direction. It was massive, with a hull that seemed to be made of some dark metal that absorbed light. Weapon ports along its sides glowed with barely contained energy. "Are they targeting us?" asked Jake. "Not yet, sir," replied Carl. "But their weapons are powered up and ready to fire. I think they are just trying to figure out what we are." "Open all channels," Peter said, Jake making a quick decision. "Broadcast on every frequency we can manage. Tell them who we are and that we mean no harm." Peter worked frantically at his station. "Sir, I do not know if they will even understand our transmission. Their technology is clearly far more advanced than ours. Just do it," ordered Jake. "We need to try something before they decide we are a threat." The communications officer began broadcasting, a message in every format the ship's computer could generate. "This is the United Earth ship Defiance. We are humans from the planet Earth. Our presence here is not intentional. We experienced a malfunction in our drive system. We are not hostile. We repeat, we are not hostile." More alien ships were starting to take notice of them now. Several vessels from both sides of the conflict were turning their sensors toward the Defiance. Jake could imagine the confusion the aliens must be feeling. A strange ship with an unknown design suddenly appears in the middle of their battle. They had no idea what humans were. They had no idea where Earth was. For all they knew, the Defiance could be a scout ship for a much larger fleet. "Commander, I am receiving responses to our hail," said Peter. "Multiple responses. The computer is trying to translate, but the languages are completely foreign to anything in our database." "Keep working on it," Jake said. "Amy, what is our tactical situation?" Amy had been running calculations on her navigation console. "We have room to maneuver, Commander, but not much. If we try to move away too quickly, they might interpret it as an aggressive action. If we stay still, we are an easy target. Either way, we are severely outgunned." "That might be an understatement," added Carl. "Some of those alien vessels are putting out energy readings that are off our scale. Their weapons could probably destroy us with a single shot." Jake looked at his crew. They were scared. He was scared, but they were also professional military personnel who had trained for difficult situations, just not situations quite like this. "All hands, this is the commander," Jake announced over the ship-wide intercom. "We have encountered alien vessels. Multiple alien civilizations are currently engaged in combat in this region. We are attempting to establish peaceful communication. All crew members should remain at their stations and await further orders. Stay calm and trust in your training. We will get through this together." He hoped that last part was true. The Defiance was a tough ship with good weapons and good armor, but it was designed to fight other human ships. It was not designed to face technology that was potentially thousands of years more advanced. "Sir, the closest alien ship is hailing us," said Peter. "The computer has made some progress on translation. It is rough, but I think they are demanding that we identify ourselves and declare our intentions." On the view screen, the massive alien warship loomed closer. It was now near enough that they could see details on its hull. Strange symbols were marked along its sides. Gun ports were open and glowing with ready weapons. The ship was absolutely enormous compared to the Defiance. It was like a whale swimming up to inspect a minnow. "Open a channel," Peter said, Jake straightening his uniform and stepping in front of the view screen. "Let us introduce humanity to the galaxy. Let us just hope they are feeling friendly." The view screen flickered, and suddenly Jake Morrison was looking at something he had never imagined he would see in his lifetime. An alien face stared back at him from across the void of space. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern on its face, and its skin was a deep blue color that seemed to shimmer under the lights of its own bridge. When it spoke, the sounds were completely foreign, but the ship's computer worked frantically to translate the words into something Jake could understand. "You are unknown. Your vessel is unknown. Your presence here disrupts the balance of this engagement. Identify your allegiance immediately, or you will be classified as hostile and eliminated." Jake took a deep breath and tried to keep his voice steady and calm. "I am Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Defiance. We are humans from a planet called Earth. We have no allegiance to any party in this conflict because we did not know this conflict existed until a few minutes ago. Our ship experienced a malfunction and we are arrived here by accident. We seek only to repair our vessel and leave peacefully." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in a pattern that might have meant surprise or confusion or something else entirely. "Earth means nothing to us. Humans are not in our database of known species. This is highly irregular. You claim to be neutral, yet you appear in the middle of the most important battle of this war. Explain how this is possible." Before Jake could respond, another window opened on the view screen. This one showed a different alien. This creature was taller and thinner, with skin that looked almost like polished metal. Its eyes were large and reflective, and when it spoke, its voice came through the translation as harsh and commanding. The Carthon speak to an unknown vessel. We also demand answers. Your ship's design matches no known civilization. Your energy signature is strange and unfamiliar. Are you a new weapon deployed by the Draxian Empire? Answer truthfully or face immediate destruction. Jake realized he was now talking to both sides of the war at the same time. The Defiance had become the center of attention for two massive alien fleets that were already on edge from their ongoing battle. One wrong word could start a fight that would end with his ship being blown to pieces. I will tell you both the same thing, Jake said, looking back and forth between the two alien faces on his screen. We are not part of your war. We are not allied with either the Carthon or the Draxian Empire, because until this moment we did not know you existed. Humanity is new to this region of space. We are explorers, and we are currently stranded here due to a mechanical failure. We have no interest in your conflict, and we threaten neither of you. Lieutenant Amy Rhodes leaned close to Jake and whispered quietly. Commander, both fleets are repositioning. They are moving to surround us. Jake kept his eyes on the view screen and tried not to show any reaction to that news. He needed to keep both alien commanders talking and not shooting. The blue-skinned alien, who Jake now understood was called Zexthor, spoke again. If you are truly neutral, then you will not object to a full scan of your vessel. We must verify that you are not carrying weapons or technology that could threaten the Carthon unity. The metallic-skinned alien, who was apparently Warlord Krenax of the Draxian Empire, immediately objected. The Draxians will also conduct a scan. We do not trust Carthon assessment of potential threats. This unknown vessel could be a trap or a trick. Ensign Carl Davis turned from his tactical station with worry on his face. Sir, if they scan us, they are going to see our weapon systems. We are armed. They might interpret that as hostile intent, Jake thought quickly. There was no way to hide what the Defiance was. It was a military vessel built for combat. The aliens would see the railgun batteries and the missile tubes and the armor plating. They would know this was a warship. The question was whether they would understand that every species needed to defend itself. You may conduct your scans, Jake announced to both alien commanders. Yes, we are armed, but only for defensive purposes. We carry weapons because space travel is dangerous and ships must be able to protect themselves. We have not targeted any of your vessels, and we have not charged our weapons. We are not a threat unless we are threatened first. Both aliens seemed to consider this. Their ships must have already been scanning the Defiance because they both started receiving data almost immediately. Zexthor's eyes moved as he read something off-screen. Your vessel is small by our standards, but it is heavily built. The armor is thick. The power systems are unusual. You use some form of controlled fusion reaction that we have not seen configured in this manner before, and your weapons are primitive kinetic accelerators. You throw metal through space. There was something in his tone that might have been dismissive or amused. Jake felt a flash of irritation but kept it off his face. Warlord Krenax was also reviewing scan data. The hull composition is interesting. Multiple layers of different materials designed to absorb and disperse energy. Your defensive systems are more sophisticated than your offensive weapons. This is a ship built to survive rather than to conquer. Peter Blake's console suddenly lit up with new signals. Commander, I am receiving transmissions from other ships in both fleets. They all want to know what we are. Word is spreading fast. The situation was getting more complicated by the second. More alien ships were moving closer to get a better look at the strange newcomers. Some were powering up their weapons just in case. The tension in space was thick enough to cut with a knife. Jake made a decision. He turned to Carl at the tactical station. Give me a firing solution on an empty piece of space about 5,000 kilometers to our port side. Load one railgun with a standard tungsten round. Carl looked confused, but he followed orders. He worked his controls and nodded. Ready, sir? Jake turned back to the view screen where both alien commanders were still watching. You scanned our weapons and you see that we use kinetic accelerators. You think this technology is primitive. Perhaps it is. But let me show you something about human engineering. Fire. The Defiance's port railgun spoke. There was no dramatic sound in the vacuum of space, but everyone watching saw the result. A single tungsten rod accelerated to enormous speed and streaked away from the ship. When it reached the designated empty space, it simply kept going. But the sensors tracked it and measured its velocity and energy. Carl read the numbers out loud. Projectile speed achieved 92% of light speed. Kinetic energy on impact would be equivalent to a 300 megaton explosion. Both alien commanders stared at their own sensor readings. There was a long silence. Zexthor spoke first, and his tone had changed. You accelerated a piece of metal to near light speed using electromagnetic force. The energy requirements for such acceleration are immense. How did a ship this size generate that much power in a fraction of a second? Our fusion reactors are very efficient, Jake said simply, and our capacitor systems can store and release energy very quickly. You are correct that kinetic weapons are an old technology for humanity. We have been refining them for centuries. What we lack in exotic energy weapons we make up for in raw physical force. Warlord Krenax was silent for a moment longer. When he spoke, there was something new in his voice. Respect, perhaps, or caution. The Draxian Empire acknowledges that you possess significant military capability, despite your primitive methods. A projectile traveling at that speed would be nearly impossible to intercept. It would punch through most shields and armor like they were not even there. Jake allowed himself a small smile. Now you understand why humanity does not need to choose sides in your war. We are small and we are few, but we are not helpless. We will defend ourselves if necessary, but we prefer peace. All we want is to repair our ship and return home. Amy checked her navigation display and then looked at Jake with concern. Commander, both fleets are still surrounding us. They have not powered down their weapons. I think they are deciding what to do with us. The two alien commanders exchanged a look across the view screen. It was clear they were communicating through some other channel that the humans could not hear. Finally, Zexthor turned back to face Jake directly. The Carthon Unity proposes a temporary ceasefire while we determine the truth of your claims. You will remain in this location and make no attempt to leave. We will discuss your situation and decide how to proceed. If you attempt to flee or if you aid the Draxian Empire in any way, you will be destroyed. Do you accept these terms? Warlord Krenax added his own conditions. The Draxian Empire agrees to this ceasefire, but only regarding the human vessel. Our war with the Carthon continues. You will not interfere in our conflict. If you do, you become our enemy. Jake looked at his crew. They were trapped either way. At least a ceasefire meant they were not being shot at for now. We accept your terms, Jake said. The Defiance will remain here and will not interfere in your war. We ask only that you give us time to repair our jump drive so we can leave. The temporary ceasefire held for exactly 47 minutes before everything went wrong. Jake Morrison was in a conference call with Chief Engineer Lisa Grant, discussing the jump drive repairs when Carl Davis shouted from the tactical station. Commander, we have a problem. One of the Draxian cruisers just broke formation and it is heading straight for us. Jake spun his chair around to face the view screen. Show me. The display zoomed in on a medium-sized Draxian warship that was accelerating hard toward the Defiance. Its weapons were charging up and glowing with barely contained energy. Jake immediately opened channels to both fleet commanders. Warlord Krenax, what is the meaning of this? Your ship is violating the ceasefire. The Draxian commander appeared on screen and he looked genuinely surprised. That vessel is not acting under my orders. Captain Vexcor is a hothead who believes caution is weakness. I am ordering him to stand down now. But the rogue cruiser kept coming. Its captain's face appeared in another window on the view screen. He was a younger Draxian with bright metallic skin and eyes that burned with aggression. The humans are a threat that must be eliminated before they can choose to side with the Carthon. I will not allow unknown variables to interfere in our glorious conquest. This is for the Empire, the cruiser fired. A massive bolt of superheated plasma erupted from its forward cannon and streaked toward the Defiance. The bridge alarm screamed and red warning lights flashed everywhere. Evasive maneuvers, Amy shouted Jake. Lieutenant Amy Rhodes was already working her controls before the order finished leaving his mouth. The Defiance rolled hard to port with its maneuvering thrusters firing at maximum power. The alien plasma bolt passed so close that the sensors registered a temperature spike on the hull. Paint on the outer armor actually blistered from the residual heat. Carl had his hands on the tactical controls and his jaw was set in determination, Commander requesting permission to return fire. Jake watched the Draxian cruiser coming around for another attack run. He thought about the ceasefire and the delicate political situation. Then he thought about his crew and his ship and his responsibility to keep them all alive. Sometimes the choice was simple. Permission granted. Target their forward weapons only. Show them what human engineering can really do. Carl's fingers danced across his console. He had been hoping for this chance ever since they arrived. The Defiance had been designed by people who understood that in space combat, you only got one chance to make an impression. Target locked. Firing railgun battery 3. The Defiance spoke with thunder that was silent in the void. 6 electromagnetic railguns fired in perfect sequence. Each one hurled a tungsten penetrator rod at velocities that bent the laws of physics to their breaking point. The rods were simple pieces of metal with no explosives and no fancy technology. They did not need any. At the speeds the railguns achieved, mass and velocity alone became devastating weapons. The Draxian cruiser never had a chance to dodge. The tungsten rods hit its forward section in less than a second. The first rod punched through the cruiser's shield like it was tissue paper. The shield was designed to disperse energy weapons, not to stop solid objects moving at relativistic speeds. The second and third rods slammed into the armor plating and simply tore through it. The fourth rod hit the main plasma cannon dead center, and the weapon exploded in a brilliant flash. The fifth and sixth rods continued through the ship's interior, destroying everything in their path. The entire front third of the Draxian cruiser came apart in a cloud of debris and venting atmosphere. Secondary explosions rippled through the damaged section. As systems overloaded and fuel lines ruptured, the ship tumbled out of control, spilling crew members and equipment into the cold vacuum. Direct hit, Carl reported with satisfaction in his voice. Their forward weapons section is completely destroyed. The ship is disabled, but life support appears intact in the rear sections. They are not going to be shooting at anyone for a while. The comm channels exploded with activity. Both fleets were suddenly very interested in what had just happened. On the main view screen, both Warlord Krenax and Fleet Commander Zexthor stared at their displays with expressions that the translation software could not quite capture. Shock, maybe, or disbelief. Zexthor spoke first. Replay that engagement. I need to see it again. His tactical officer must have complied because the Carthon commander watched something off screen. His four eyes widened slightly. They destroyed a Draxian cruiser with a single volley. 1 salvo. 6 projectiles. How is that possible with such primitive weapons? Jake kept his expression neutral. As I told you before, we have been refining kinetic weapon technology for a very long time. Our railguns can accelerate projectiles to speeds where the kinetic energy alone is devastating. No explosives needed, just physics. Warlord Krenax was having a similar conversation with his own officers. The data must have been flowing through the Draxian fleet, because ships that had been moving to surround the Defiance suddenly backed off to safer distances. The Warlord's voice was tight with controlled anger. Captain Vexcor violated my direct orders and attacked during a ceasefire. He has brought shame upon himself and endangered the Empire. But I must know how your small vessel accomplished what it just did. Jake glanced at Lisa, who had been listening from engineering. The chief engineer appeared on a split screen and explained in simple terms. Our fusion reactors produce enormous amounts of power. We store that power in capacitor banks that can release it almost instantly. The railguns use electromagnetic coils to accelerate tungsten rods down a long barrel. The longer the barrel, the more acceleration we can achieve. Our weapons are built into the spine of the ship precisely because we need that length for maximum velocity. Peter Blake added more information from his station. Commander, I am monitoring communications across both fleets. They are analyzing our weapons technology and they seem very concerned. Several ships are recalculating their tactical assessments. Amy looked at Jake with worry in her eyes. Sir, we just showed them what we can do, but we also showed them our primary weakness. Now they know we only have kinetic weapons. They will adapt their tactics. Jake nodded slowly. She was right, of course. The demonstration had bought them respect, but it had also revealed their capabilities. The aliens would now know exactly what the Defiance could and could not do, but there was no helping it. They had been forced to defend themselves. Zexthor spoke again, and this time there was something thoughtful in his tone. Your weapons are effective against shields because shields are designed to stop energy, not matter. A physical projectile at such speed simply passes through before the shield can react. This is a weakness in our defensive technology that we had not considered because no one uses kinetic weapons anymore. It is not just the shield, said one of his officers who appeared briefly on screen. The armor is also inadequate. Our hulls are designed to withstand plasma and particle beams which spread their damage over an area. These human projectiles concentrate all their energy into a single point. The armor cannot disperse the impact. Warlord Krenax was hearing similar assessments from his own tactical staff. He looked at Jake with new calculation in his eyes. You have proven you are dangerous opponents despite your small size and primitive methods. The Draxian Empire respects strength. I propose that we continue the ceasefire and discuss terms. Perhaps there is value in establishing relations with humanity before circumstances force us into conflict. Jake felt some of the tension ease from his shoulders. The gamble had worked. By defending themselves decisively, they had earned respect from both sides. Now maybe they could find a way out of this situation without more violence. Before anyone could respond, another alarm went off on Carl's station. Commander, I am detecting multiple ships jumping into the system. New contacts appearing at the edge of sensor range. They are not Carthon and they are not Draxian. The view screen updated to show new signatures appearing in space. Jake counted at least 15 vessels of yet another design. These ships were different from both fleets. They were sleeker and more angular with hulls that seemed to absorb sensor scans. Peter worked frantically at his console. Sir, I'm receiving a transmission from the new arrivals. They are broadcasting on all channels. The translation is coming through now. A new alien face appeared on the view screen. This one was reptilian with scales that shifted colors and eyes that tracked independently. When it spoke, the voice was cold and precise. This is Commodore Sharnak of the Vraxan Sovereignty. We have been monitoring this situation. A new species has appeared in our space-wielding weapons that threaten the balance of power. This cannot be tolerated. The human vessel will surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They had just finished one fight and now another was starting. The Vraxan ships were spreading out to surround them. Both the Carthon and Draxian fleets seemed as surprised by this development as the humans were. Amy checked her navigation display. Sir, we cannot outrun them and we cannot jump away. The drive is still offline. Carl was already running tactical calculations. We have maybe enough ammunition for one more engagement like the last one. After that, we will be down to just our point defense systems. Jake straightened in his chair and opened a channel to the Vraxan commander. This is Commander Jake Morrison. We will not surrender. We are not your enemy and we pose no threat to your sovereignty. Stand down and we can discuss this peacefully. The reptilian alien's eyes both focused on Jake at the same time. There will be no discussion. Your time is up. The 30 seconds passed in silence that felt like hours. Jake Morrison watched the Vraxan ships moving into attack positions and knew that the Defiance could not win a fight against 15 enemy vessels. They had barely survived one encounter and now they faced overwhelming odds. But surrender was not an option. Humanity did not cross the stars just to give up at the first sign of trouble. Commodore Sharnak appeared ready to give the order to fire when something unexpected happened. Warlord Krenax's face suddenly filled half the view screen and his voice carried an authority that cut through the tension. Vraxan Commander, you will stand down immediately. The humans are under the protection of the Draxian Empire during the duration of our ceasefire. Any attack on them will be considered an attack on us. Jake's surprise must have shown on his face because Amy Rhodes gave him a quick look that said she was just as confused. The Draxians had been enemies just minutes ago, and now they were offering protection. Fleet Commander Zex Thor appeared on the other half of the view screen and his 4 eyes were locked onto the reptilian alien. The Carthon Unity also extends protection to the human vessel. They have demonstrated honorable conduct and formidable capability. We do not permit the Vraxan sovereignty to interfere in matters that do not concern them. Commodore Sharnak's scales rippled through several color changes, which might have indicated anger or frustration. The Carthon and Draxian suddenly agree on something. How remarkable. But this changes nothing. A new species with dangerous weapons cannot be allowed to upset the regional balance. We will eliminate this threat now before it grows. The Vraxan ships continued their advance. Jake could see on the tactical display that they were spreading out to attack from multiple angles. Carl Davis had his hands on the weapons controls ready to fire, but they all knew it would not be enough. Then Warlord Krenax did something that shocked everyone. He ordered his entire fleet to change positions. 22 Draxian warships broke their formations and moved to form a defensive screen between the Defiance and the Vraxan vessels. At almost the same moment, Fleet Commander Zex Thor gave similar orders to his ships. 21 Carthon vessels moved to cover the other approaches. The human battleship that had been surrounded by enemies was suddenly protected by 2 alien fleets that had been trying to destroy each other just hours before. Jake stared at the tactical display trying to understand what was happening. Peter Blake leaned close and whispered, Sir, I think we just became more valuable than whatever they were fighting about. Both sides want us as potential allies rather than letting the Vraxen eliminate us. That made sense in a cold strategic way. The humans had proven they could hurt ships with technology far more advanced than their own. Whoever gained Earth as an ally would have an advantage. Neither the Carthon nor the Draxian wanted to let the Vraxen gain that advantage instead. Commodore Sharnak's scales turned a dark red color. You would protect an unknown species. You would shield them from rightful judgment. This is madness. The Vraxen sovereignty will remember this foolish decision. Then fire on us, Warlord Krenak said coldly. But know that if you do, you will face the combined might of both our fleets. Your 15 ships against our 43. The mathematics are not in your favor. The Vraxon commander stared at both alien leaders for a long moment. His scales shifted through several more colors before finally settling on a dull gray. The sovereignty withdraws for now, but this matter is not finished. The humans have made powerful enemies today. The Vraxen ships turned and began moving away from the engagement zone. Within minutes, they had jumped out of the system entirely, leaving behind only fading energy signatures. Jake let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. Lieutenant Amy Rhodes checked her sensors carefully. They are gone, sir. All Vraxen vessels have left the area. Carl powered down the weapon systems. That was too close. I had firing solutions ready, but we would not have lasted more than a few minutes against those numbers. Jake opened channels to both fleet commanders who were still on the view screen. Warlord Krenax and Fleet Commander Zexthor, I must thank you both. You saved our lives just now, but I have to ask why you protected us when you are enemies yourselves. The two alien leaders looked at each other across the communication link. Something passed between them that might have been understanding or respect. Zexthor spoke first. The Vraxen sovereignty has long sought to expand their territory into regions controlled by both the Carthon Unity and the Draxian Empire. They use any excuse to interfere in our affairs. By claiming you were a threat, they were attempting to establish a presence in this sector. Warlord Krenax continued the explanation. Neither of us could allow that to happen. Whatever our differences, the Carthon and Draxian have maintained a balance in this region for generations. The Vraxen would upset that balance. Also, your species has proven worthy of consideration. You fought honorably and showed capability that demands respect. Jake nodded slowly. So we are useful to both of you. That is why you protected us. Zexthor's expression might have been a smile or something else entirely. Do not mistake political calculation for the entire truth, Commander Morrison. Yes, you are strategically valuable, but there is more to it than that. You appeared in our space by accident and immediately sought peaceful communication. When forced to defend yourselves, you did so with precision and restraint. You disabled an enemy ship rather than destroying it completely. These are the actions of a civilized species. The Draxian warlord added his own perspective. War makes soldiers see things clearly. I have commanded fleets for many years, and I recognize warriors of quality when I see them. Your crew performs with discipline and courage. Your ship is built with purpose and intelligence. Humanity may be new to the galaxy, but you are not weak. The strong respect the strong. Lisa Grant's voice came through from engineering. Commander, I hate to interrupt, but I need to give you an update on the jump drive. The damage is extensive. We can repair it, but we need specific materials that we do not have in our supplies. Some of the components are completely melted and need to be replaced. Jake felt his hopes sink. What kind of materials do we need, Lisa? Rare earth elements mostly. Specific alloys for the power conduits. Crystalline matrices for the control systems. Nothing we can fabricate from basic materials. We would need to find a source or a supplier. Peter suddenly became very interested in his console. Commander, I am detecting a transmission. It is on a tight beam directed specifically at us. The source is one of the Carthon ships. Put it through, Jake ordered. A new alien face appeared on a smaller screen. This one was Carthon, but younger looking than Zexthor with lighter blue skin. I am Science Officer Telvar from the research vessel Quantum Observer. I have been analyzing your ship's design and propulsion system. Your jump drive uses principles that are familiar to us, but implemented in ways we have never seen. It is quite ingenious, actually. I believe we have the materials you need for repairs in our supply stores. Perhaps we could arrange an exchange of information and resources. Jake looked at Amy, who shrugged slightly. What kind of exchange are you proposing, Telvar? The Carthon scientist's eyes gleamed with excitement. Your fusion reactor design is fascinating. The power output relative to the size is remarkable. If you would share technical data on your power generation systems, I could provide the materials your engineer needs. I am certain Fleet Commander Zexthor would approve such an exchange as it would be beneficial to both our peoples. Before Jake could respond, another transmission came through, this time from the Draxian fleet. This was another new face with bright metallic skin and multiple optical implants. I am Chief Engineer Naxel of the Draxian Foundry ship Ironforge. I too have materials that could assist your repairs. The Draxian Empire would be interested in studying your kinetic acceleration technology. Your railguns are crude but effective. We could learn much from each other. Carl leaned toward Jake and spoke quietly. Sir, they are bidding for our technology. Both sides want to know how our weapons and systems work. Jake thought carefully. Sharing Earth's technology with alien civilizations was a decision that should probably be made by people much higher up the chain of command than him, but those people were 47 light years away and the Defiance was stuck here now. Without repairs, they might never make it home. I need to consult with my crew, he told both alien scientists. Give us some time to discuss this internally. Both aliens agreed and the channels closed. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. Amy looked concerned. Carl looked cautious. Peter looked curious. Lisa appeared on the engineering feed looking hopeful. Opinions, he asked simply. Amy spoke first. Sir, we need those materials or we are stuck here permanently. But giving away Earth's technology could be dangerous. We do not know how these aliens will use what we teach them. Carl added his thoughts. The technology they want is not our most advanced. Fusion reactors and railguns are tools we have been using for decades. They already saw what our weapons can do, so we are not giving away secrets. We are just explaining how it works. Lisa was direct as always. I need those materials, Commander. Without them, the Defiance never jumps again. We would be dependent on alien charity to even get food and supplies. That is not acceptable. Jake made his decision. Open channels to both the Carthon and Draxian science officers. Tell them we will share limited technical data in exchange for the materials we need. But make it clear this is a one-time exchange, and any future cooperation will need to be negotiated through proper diplomatic channels with Earth. The next 3 days changed. Everything for the crew of the Defiance and possibly for the entire galaxy. Jake Morrison stood in the cargo bay watching as alien engineers worked alongside his crew to repair the jump drive. Carthon scientists examined human fusion reactor designs with fascination, while Draxian technicians studied the railgun acceleration systems with intense interest. It was a scene that would have been unthinkable just days before. Chief Engineer Lisa Grant moved between workstations, coordinating the repairs with efficiency that impressed even the alien engineers. She had quickly learned to communicate with the Carthon science officer Telvar, who had proven to be both brilliant and surprisingly easy to work with. The materials he provided were exactly what they needed, and his understanding of jump drive mechanics was helping speed the repairs significantly. Commander Morrison, you should see this, Telvar called from inside the open drive assembly. Your people built redundancy into every system. 3 backup power feeds where one would suffice. Double-hulled containment chambers. It is excessive but also very clever. If one system fails, the others keep working. Lisa wiped grease from her hands and smiled. Humans learned a long time ago that space does not forgive mistakes. We build everything twice as strong as it needs to be, because we know something will eventually break. Better to have backups than to die when a single component fails. The Carthon scientist's 4 eyes blinked in what might have been approval. A practical philosophy. My people tend to optimize for efficiency over redundancy. Perhaps we have something to learn from your approach. On the other side of the cargo bay, Ensign Carl Davis was demonstrating the railgun targeting systems to Chief Engineer Naxel from the Draxian Foundry ship. The Draxian engineer's optical implants whirred as he processed the information. So you use magnetic fields to accelerate the projectile, but you also use gravity calculations to predict the target's position, Naxel said slowly. The computer must process enormous amounts of data in fractions of a second. Carl nodded enthusiastically. The targeting computer is actually one of our most advanced systems. It has to account for the projectile's velocity and trajectory, plus the movement of both our ship and the target, plus gravitational effects from nearby planets or stars. One small miscalculation and the shot misses by thousands of kilometers. Fascinating. The Draxian Empire uses energy weapons that travel at light speed, so we do not need such complex targeting. But your method has advantages. Energy weapons can be detected and tracked, giving opponents time to evade or deploy countermeasures. Your projectiles are almost impossible to see until they hit. Jake watched these exchanges from the cargo bay entrance with mixed feelings. On one hand, they were getting the help they desperately needed. On the other hand, they were sharing Earth's technology with civilizations that might one day become enemies. But the decision was made and there was no going back now. Lieutenant Amy Rhodes approached with a data pad in hand. Commander, I've been running calculations on our return jump to Earth. With the new materials and the Carthon technical assistance, Lisa says the drive will actually be more reliable than before. We should be able to make the jump in one go rather than the series of smaller jumps we originally planned. That is good news, Jake said. What about our fuel and supplies? Both the Carthon and Draxian have offered to resupply us. They seem eager to maintain good relations. I think they are hoping we will report favorably about them when we get back to Earth. Jake smiled slightly. They are probably right to hope that. Both fleets protected us from the Vraxon, and both have been generous with their assistance. Earth will want to know who its potential friends are out here. Communications Officer Peter Blake's voice came through on Jake's personal comm. Commander, you should come to the bridge. Fleet Commander Zexthor and Warlord Krenax are both requesting to speak with you. They say it is important. Jake made his way back to the bridge where the view screen showed both alien commanders waiting. He settled into his command chair and nodded to them. Gentlemen, what can I do for you? Zexthor spoke first. Commander Morrison, the Carthon Unity, wishes to make a formal proposal. We would like to establish an embassy on Earth and open diplomatic relations with humanity. Your species has proven worthy of friendship, and we believe there would be mutual benefit in an alliance. Warlord Krenax immediately followed. The Draxian Empire makes the same request. We too wish to establish formal relations with Earth. Your people show strength and honor, which the Empire values greatly. We could offer protection and trade opportunities that would benefit both our civilizations. Jake had expected this, but it was still a significant moment. Two powerful alien empires were asking to become allies with humanity. The political implications were staggering. I am honored by both proposals, Jake said carefully. But I must be honest with you. I do not have the authority to make such agreements on behalf of Earth. That decision will need to be made by our government leaders. What I can do is carry your proposals back to Earth and present them to the proper authorities. I will also provide my personal recommendation based on what I have seen here. Both aliens seemed satisfied with that answer. Zexthor's expression might have been thoughtful. Commander Morrison, may I ask what your recommendation will be? You have seen both our peoples at our worst engaged in war. Will you tell Earth that we are dangerous or that we are potential friends? Jake considered his words carefully. I will tell Earth the truth, that we encountered two civilizations locked in a long conflict over resources, that when we appeared unexpectedly, both sides responded with caution but not immediate hostility, that when we were threatened by a third party, both the Carthon and Draxian protected us even though you are enemies to each other, that when we needed help with repairs, both sides provided assistance and asked for fair exchange rather than demanding tribute. I will tell them that you are formidable but also honorable, that you can be fierce in war but also reasonable in peace. Warlord Krenax seemed pleased with this assessment. That is all we can ask. But Commander, I must also ask you something. Your arrival here interrupted the largest battle of our war. For 3 days now, both our fleets have maintained a ceasefire. In all that time working alongside your crew and seeing how you approach problems, I have begun to question the necessity of this conflict. Zexthor's 4 eyes widened slightly. I have had similar thoughts, Warlord. The resources we fight over are vast enough for both our peoples. The war costs us more in ships and lives than we would lose by sharing the territory. Perhaps we have been too proud to see the obvious solution. Jake felt his heart rate increase. Were the two alien commanders actually considering peace because of humanity's influence? It seemed impossible, but he could see something changing in their expressions. Commander Morrison Zexthor continued. Would you be willing to remain here for a few more days? The Carthon Unity would like to propose formal peace negotiations with the Draxian Empire. Given that both sides trust you, we would ask that you serve as a neutral mediator. Your presence might help us find common ground. The Draxian warlord added his support. I agree with this proposal. The Empire has fought for glory and honor, but perhaps there is more honor in building peace than in endless war. If the humans can help us find that peace, then we would be grateful. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Amy was nodding encouragingly. Carl looked surprised but hopeful. Peter was already pulling up files on human diplomatic procedures. This was far beyond anything Jake had trained for, but how could he refuse? If there was even a chance to end a war and save lives, he had to try. The Defiance will stay, Jake announced. I cannot guarantee success, but humanity will do whatever we can to help you find peace. However, I have conditions. Both sides must agree to a full ceasefire during negotiations. All weapons must be powered down. And both sides must come to the table willing to compromise. Both alien commanders agreed immediately. Over the next 2 days, the cargo bay was cleared and converted into a negotiation space. Representatives from both fleets came aboard with their data and their grievances and their hopes. Jake and his senior officers facilitated discussions that sometimes lasted late into the night cycle. The breakthrough came on the 3rd day when Amy suggested a resource-sharing agreement that would give each empire what they needed most while requiring cooperation on the rest. The Carthon would get primary access to the heavy metals they needed for ship construction. The Draxians would get the rare crystals essential for their power systems. The Middle Territories would be jointly managed, with both sides contributing to security and both benefiting from the resources. It was not perfect, but it was workable. More importantly, both sides felt they gained more than they lost. Within hours, the framework of a peace treaty began to take shape on. The 5th day since the Defiance's arrival, Jake stood on his bridge watching as both alien fleets began to withdraw to their respective territories. The war was not completely over, but a ceasefire was holding and negotiations would continue. Lisa reported that the jump drive repairs were complete and all systems were functioning perfectly. Set course for Earth, Jake ordered. Let us go home and tell them what we found out here. The view screen showed both Fleet Commander Zexathor and Warlord Krenax one final time. They had asked to say farewell personally. Commander Morrison, you came to us by accident, but you leave having changed the course of history, Zexathor said. The Carthon Unity will remember humanity as friends and peacemakers. We look forward to the day when your people join us among the stars. The Draxian Empire echoes these sentiments, Krenax added. Tell your leaders that they have allies waiting for them in the galaxy. When Earth is ready to take its place in the greater community, we will welcome you. Jake felt pride swell in his chest. On behalf of humanity, I thank you both. We came here lost and alone, but we leave having made friends. That is more than we could have hoped for. Until we meet again.